Hello, everybody, and welcome to Penguins to Go, your daily dose of Pittsburgh Penguins news and analysis. You can find us on YouTube at Inside the Penguins or anywhere you get your podcasts from. I'm your host, Nick Brlansky, on this fine-looking Friday, although it is going to rain outside in D.C., but if you're in Pittsburgh, I don't know what the weather's going to be. Sorry, I don't check the weather in Pittsburgh. But regardless, we're here to talk a little bit about the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I want to talk today about free agency because it's coming quicker than you may expect. Just about 2 weeks away from the opening of free agency. And if you haven't noticed, I understand that most of this offseason has already been about the general manager search, the president of hockey operations search, and that ended a couple weeks ago with Kyle Dubas being hired. But we have not really seen many signings. And by many, I mean more than one signing since the season came to a close. The only signing as of right now for the Pittsburgh Penguins was restricted free agent Alex Nylander getting a one-year, one-way contract to come back to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Probably going to be somebody that starts in the bottom six next season, but when you look around, especially since Kyle Dubas was not in position when Alex Nylander was signed, Dubas has yet to make his first move. Now, I get it. Kyle Dubas, he's currently getting the crash course on the entire Penguins organization, figuring out who some of these prospects are. I know he had probably a base knowledge of a lot of these guys, but he's getting this more in-depth knowledge about the prospects in the Penguin system, who they have at the NHL level, who's in, the NHL draft that the Pittsburgh Penguins scouting department is looking at. So it's all coming together really quickly for Kyle Dubas. And I get that it's not going to be result right after he gets hired. But these deadlines and these tentpole events of the offseason are coming very quickly, right? The buyout window is already open. So if he's going to buy somebody out, it's already open. It runs through June 30th. So he has 14 days, 2 weeks to figure out if he's going to buy out. Mikael Granlund would be the most likely scenario. And if you want to hear us talk about more about that, go back to our latest episode of the Tip of the Ice-Burgh from yesterday. But also, RFA qualifying offers, the deadline is also on June 30th. So the fact that the Penguins have over a half dozen RFAs still unsigned and just about 2 weeks to get them either signed or you're going to tender the qualifying offers to them, time is running out. And then, of course, free agency begins right after that on July 1st. The question becomes, how many signings will Kyle Dubas make before free agency opens on July 1st? It's more than one, right? I would set the over-under, for everybody listening to this, I would set the over-under at 7.5. And that has to be notable contracts, not counting entry-level deals for anybody he drafts in a couple weeks, not counting like Peter Deliberator. I don't count that. When it comes to notable contracts, here are the notable free agents the Pittsburgh Penguins currently have unsigned. Restricted free agents who, again, qualifying offer deadline is June 30th. Here are the restricted free agents for the Penguins: Drew O'Connor, Ryan Poehling, Jonathan Gruden, Valtteri Puustinen, Ty Smith, Colin Sawyer, and there are two others that the Penguins aren't going to re-sign because they already signed contracts in Europe. The two Phillips, Philip Hollander and Philip Lindbergh, both already signed in Europe, won't be coming back to the Penguins organization unless Kyle Dubas can, I don't know. Unlikely that they come back. Let's leave it at that. But everybody else is a restricted free agent. Those are the notable contracts that the Penguins have up right now. Unrestricted free agents: Josh Archibald, Nick Bonino, Danton Heinen, Jason Zucker, Drake Caggiula, Brian Dumoulin, Dmitry Kulikov, Tristan Jarry, and goaltender Dustin Tokarski. So if I told you those names, and it's pretty obvious where the cutoff is between what I consider notable and what I consider not notable, would you think that they're going to make over or under 7.5 signings between now and July 1st? I would say under. I mean, this is a new management group that is coming in, and I understand. Listen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I named 6 RFAs. I could probably see him signing all 6 of those RFAs, which tells you I don't think he signs more than 2 of these UFAs before free agency opens. I think most of the unrestricted free agents will be allowed to walk to market. Stark difference between this year and last year, because last year, of course, Penguins went out and they signed Casey DeSmith before that deadline. They signed Chris Letang before that deadline. They barely beat the buzzer with Evgeny Malkin before that deadline. Brian Rust was signed before then. Rickard Rakell was signed before then. It's a very different offseason, and there's a very different layout to the Pittsburgh Penguins this offseason. I don't think he makes those signings. I think for multiple reasons. One, the Penguins need change. You're not going to get it by bringing back many of these UFAs. Drake Caggiula didn't really get a shot at the NHL level, so I don't want to bash on him for that. But clearly that means he wasn't that impressive in the AHL. Nick Bonino, an unfortunate story, but I don't see the Penguins needing to bring him back. Maybe if they didn't have Jeff Carter on the roster, maybe you bring him back to be that veteran 13th forward, maybe 4th line center when you need him to kill penalties. But with Jeff Carter still in the lineup, you just can't give any more resources to aging veterans at that point in the bottom 6. So yeah, I think the RFAs get signed. Drew O'Connor, Ryan Poehling, Jonathan Gruden, Puustinen, Smith, and Colin Sawyer. I think I don't know about Sawyer. I don't know much about him, but I think most of those RFAs get signed or at the very least get extended a qualifying offer by June 30th. Other than a decision on Tristan Jarry, I don't think any of these UFAs sign a contract before July 1st. The only way I see it is they decide that they want to go with Tristan Jarry, or Jason Zucker basically says, I will take a massive pay cut to come back to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Other than that, they're probably all walking to free agency, seeing what's out there, and might come back. But for the most part, I wouldn't count on it, right? So I say it's under 7.5 signings. Let me know what you think, by the way. Whether you leave a 5-star review. If you leave a 5-star review and tell me the answer to this question, what you believe in your opinion, I'll read it on Monday's show. I'll read it on Tuesday's show. I don't know how much of an incentive that is, but hey, we'll throw it out there. And if you leave a comment on YouTube as well, we'll do the same thing. We'll talk about this on Monday or maybe even Wednesday of next week. How many signings do you think Kyle Dubas will make on notable contracts? That's going to be the one caveat, on notable contracts. I don't want to see some ECHL player sign to an AHL contract that also carries a Pittsburgh Penguins NHL value. That doesn't count. I'll read them through you real quick, and then we're going to go for the day. RFAs: Drew O'Connor, Ryan Poehling, Jonathan Gruden, Valtteri Puustinen, Ty Smith, and Colin Sawyer. UFAs: Archibald, Bonino, Heinen, Zucker, Caggiula, Dumoulin, Kulikov, Jarry, Tokarski. 15 names on that list. Do you think that over or under 7.5 signed by July 1st? But that's going to do it for this episode of Penguins to Go. I say under, by the way, just one last time for the record. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, you can find us on YouTube at Inside the Penguins or anywhere you get your podcast from. Just search Tip of the Ice-Burgh Podcast. And guess what? Look for the logo that says Penguins to Go. That'd be me. Penguins to Go. You can listen to it all. Make sure you subscribe, rate us, all that fun stuff. We'll see you next week.